Good morning, friends. This is Laura with Potpourri of Life. I hope that you're having a great day, and a lot of us across the country are dealing with some incoming cold, if not have already dealt with it. In New Hampshire, where we are in New Hampshire, we didn't get hit hard with the outages, the electrical outages that others did in New Hampshire. We were fortunate. Usually we don't lose it very often where we are, so I kind of like where we live in for that reason. There's a few reasons I like where we are. Then there's other reasons I can't wait to move. But for that reason, it is a good benefit for where we are. But what's happening is, and if you don't already know where you are, there is some cold weather on its way. But they're talking about high winds and not necessarily a lot of snow accumulation, but rain, ice, winds, and all that, and it's going to get really cold. That's the warning, that's the forecast. Could it change? Absolutely. But what I'm hearing from other parts of the country, it's coming our way. Could it slow down? Absolutely. We have no idea what's going on. The weather forecast is just that. It's a forecast. It's an idea of what should happen based on their equipment and stuff. But what I want to share with you is, and somebody I said something on a Facebook group, and I shared a little bit, and I shared it on two groups, some local groups that I'm on, and on my page. It says, just go out and be prepared. Yes, Christmas is around the corner, but that doesn't mean this weather needs to stop us, other than being very careful on the road. They are anticipating that we're going to have icy roads. So my thought is, why not be prepared ahead of time and not worry about that? Like, go out today. If you didn't yesterday, go out now and get those last minute items that you need for the meals and all that, instead of waiting till, oh, it's really here, I need to get to the store. Because if the electricity starts going down, the stores might not be open, or their registers might not work. So more so if you only use electronic transactions, they might only accept cash. So that is one thing to be prepared for, is some areas you might not be able to get gas, food, any of that stuff. So that's why I recommend being prepared ahead of time. Now Christmas, I don't even worry about it. It's like, that's something I prepare for all year, because I'm not a Christmas Day, everything has to be such. Do I like Christmas? Yes, but I have a tendency to give gifts throughout the year. But if I'm preparing for giving gifts at Christmas, I buy throughout the year and put them aside. So that doesn't worry me, but it does for other people. That is something that they're doing. They haven't had a chance. And one person said, I have 8 days to get 4 days worth of stuff, or 4 days to get 8 days worth of stuff. I don't know how you do it. If you've got that much stuff to do, try to reevaluate the priorities of what you need to get done with what's coming in. So what can you do if you're on the road to prepare for this kind of weather? What happens if it doesn't come through? Wouldn't that be great? And that's what you got to stop and think about. But what if it does come through? You want to make sure that your gas tank is full. Make sure that is. If you don't believe in having a full tank, that's up to you. But for us, I like to have a full tank. When it gets down to 3/4 to half, more so in the winter, I like to make sure my tank is topped off. My husband is more daring. He goes down to half a tank to 1/4 of a tank. But when we have a storm coming in, I ask him, how much is in your tank? And I think he told me yesterday, it's like, oh, it's half a tank, I'll be fine. I said, no, go get your tank filled. Because when he goes back to work, if we haven't had a chance to go out and get it filled, it's already taken care of. Plus, the bonus is you're not standing in line with other people trying to get your car filled. So do it now, and then you don't have to worry about the electricity being out and not being able to fill, because those pumps are done electronically as well. We're not living in 1960, 1970 anymore. So that's what happens when you want to advance and do things electronically for everything. And I'm not fond of all of that. So have a full tank of gas. Now, we're not expecting snow, but who knows? It could arrive. But it doesn't matter. This is winter. make sure you have a shovel in your car, because if you have to dig out, you have to dig out. The other thing is have an ice scraper and brush, because if it's raining out, we're expecting some rain and ice and stuff, you may need to pull over and get the ice off, so you may need to get the ice scraper ready. And a lot of people might say, well, your car's warm, but sometimes you start your car up and it's not quite, the windows aren't quite warm enough. So what happens is it just doesn't get cleared until your car is warmed up. So another thing is get your car started or use items that might defrost the ice quicker for you. Have some sort of salt and sand, a bag or a bucket. Get maybe a 2-gallon, 1-gallon, it doesn't really matter. Or even a bag of cat litter. There is something out there called, I wrote it down, it's safety absorbent. You can have that on hand too, so that if you need it, you can use it. All of these things, not necessarily the salt and the sand, but the cat litter and this absorbent, you can use in your garage when you need to absorb things like oil spills and so forth. Another thing my husband mentioned, he goes, if you have a wood stove or a fireplace, save that ash to also use, but don't put it in your car hot. When you take it out, make sure it is away from your house. I know people that have had house fires because it was so cold out, they just put it out on their patio. And you know what? They lost their house that night. So I would recommend that you just take it, put on the extra clothes, and bring it out far enough so that you don't have an accident. Because the last thing you want in the dead of winter is to have a house fire. So be prepared for that as well. But if you want to use that ash for your driveway, or if you want to have it in your car, just make sure it is cold. In the car, we like to have extra blankets, maybe even a sleeping bag. And if it's just the two of us, one sleeping bag would be fine. We already have extra blankets in the car. So that is something, because if you get stuck somewhere, you're going to get cold. Make sure you have mittens, hats, whatever, and make sure you have thermals. In the house here, I've been wearing thermals ever since we decided that we were going to keep our thermostat down to 68. It's been uncomfortably cool. That's why I try to keep moving about. I'll bake, I'll do other stuff, because that also helps to heat things up. But I'm not baking all day. I really don't want to be in the kitchen all day baking. But we're back to the car. So make sure you have that, and also have boots that have traction. Now I understand that some ladies like to go here and there in their high heel fancy boots. You might want to rethink that thought, because the only thing those heels are good for, and I'm not even sure if they're good for that, is to maybe break some ice away. So have some boots. I know they might not look flattering on you, but is it really about fashion when you're walking in snow and ice and upstairs and stuff like that? No, it's not. It's about safety, and that's what you got to think of first. So blanket, sleeping bag, make sure you have water with you. When you head out to wherever you're going, if you get stuck, you're going to need water. I don't know why people don't think of that, but you're going to need it. If there's snow out there, sure, you're going to need a device that can purify the snow for water. But I would recommend at least bring in a couple bottles of water. And when you come into the house, bring them in so they don't freeze outside. Let's see, you want to have food sources in case you get stuck, like granola bars. You might have fruit that you might bring. Chocolate is good if somebody needs an attitude adjustment, but have some sort of fruit. I know I always carry a granola bar in my purse all year round, because if I'm somewhere and I need to have a little bit of sustenance and I'm out longer than I expected, I like to have that on hand. But in the wintertime, when you might get stuck, you might need more than one. You might need a little bit more, and if you're going out with somebody else in your car, just have a little bit of extra. That's something my husband and I do all year round anyway. Like if we're going to go take a trip somewhere just for a drive, we do that. But it's more important in the cold weather. And remember, a lot of restaurants might not be open if the weather is bad. If they can't have the electricity on, they're not going to serve you. They might try to, but you're going to have to pay them cash. Have a notebook, like a notepad, and mechanical pencil, because when it's cold out, not all pens work very well, because if you get in an accident or you have to call the tow company, you may need to write some notes down and stuff like that. Make sure you also have all your registration paperwork with you so that you know where it is, so that you're not scrambling. Your cell phone, make sure you have your cell phone with you if you have one, and then have a charger. Have a backup charger in your car so that it can be charged. But before you go, I just heard my husband's phone go off before I started this, and I'm like, what is his phone going off for? We don't look at each other's phone to see who's calling or anything, but it kept buzzing. So I turned it on. It was down to a very low percentage. So I just plugged it in for him because I know he has to go out and do something today. So if he gets in an accident or anything like that, I want him to be able to call. Flashlights. You guys, you can't have enough flashlights in your car, in your house, whatever. Make sure you have flashlights for everybody that is in your car. I don't have my purse here. I have one hooked in my purse, and just make sure you have them. Some of the nice ones, I don't know if I can do this. A couple years back at Dollar Tree, when it was a Dollar Tree, not the $1.25 tree, they had these little flashlights. Kids love these. And when my oldest grandson was little, he got cranky in the back seat, and we were trying to figure out how can we amuse him. He was just cranky. He didn't want to be in his car seat. So I got this, and he sat there playing with it. And they can, I don't want to flash it at anybody, but it works really well. And the kids like it because they can just hold it down and see what's around. It's not a lot of light, but it allows the little ones something to do in the dark when they might be scared. Have some of these on hand, or any other flashlight that you might have. This adheres to magnets and stuff, or metal, so because it has magnet on it. And it also has a hook, so if you need to, you can hook it somewhere. In the car that I got my husband, I got him a light that actually is big so that it can attach to his hood when he has it up, if he needs to check the car, change the oil, add new windshield wash, whatever. And that's another thing. Make sure you have oil and windshield wash in your car. I know it takes up space in your trunk. I get it. But you know what? To have it on hand in an emergency, it's important. And we keep it there all winter long. Sometimes we keep it all year because we don't worry about how much we're going to put in the car. So, but then again, maybe I should. I don't know. Let's see. So, flashlight. Let's see. Some hand warmers. If you don't have any hand warmers, make sure you grab a few. I was online just checking. I know that you can get them at auto places. You can get them at Walmart. You can get them at a variety of places. Make sure you grab a few. If you have a method of keeping warm, like some people might use a tin can with a candle in it and a lighter, you can do that, but be very careful because you need to be able to have ventilation. So if you need to warm up a little bit, have it, but don't let it go for too long. Have a first aid kit. In that first aid kit, make sure you have any essential medications that you or someone in your family might need. I just keep aspirin, and my husband uses Tylenol or Excedrin and stuff. So we have those. We don't have a big bottle. We just have enough extra so that if we're stuck somewhere or we're traveling, it doesn't matter what time of year, those aren't going to be important to have. But more importantly, if you get stuck somewhere and you don't have your inhaler, we both have inhalers for emergency. But if you don't have that or any other medication that you might need, you might have problems. So, and you know, the first day EMTs might not get to you fast enough, so you need to be proactive so that you're taking care of yourself. Have a car kit of things that you can do to make sure that you have tools to help you get your car going if you need to, at least the best that you can. Because if the road crews are out there trying to help people, You might not be that first person, and you're going to be grumpy. Don't be grumpy. Be proactive. Make sure your car is all set up. So, plenty of clothes, full tank, and these other little ditty things that you might need. Now, with this cold coming in, I have no intention of going anywhere. No, and we don't have a wood stove. We don't have a fireplace. And oh boy, do I wish we did. But maybe our next home. That's actually our next home. That will be there. So, some things to do. The same as with your car. Have an emergency first aid, because the pharmacies might not be open if they don't have electricity. I think oftentimes we think, oh, they're going to be open because they have generators. We don't know how bad a storm could be. And not only that, but there have been places where things get knocked down. Folks, think positive about what could happen. So be ahead on your medications. Talk to your physician if you need medications so that you don't run out. And make sure you have an emergency plan. If you get stuck at home where you can't go anywhere, have an emergency plan. Like if my husband gets stuck at work, he has clothes and stuff like that in the car. But I have to have an emergency plan here at the house. But I also need to know who my neighbors are, who would help me, that kind of thing. You need to know how to take care of yourself as well, most especially if you don't have neighbors close by. And if you have neighbors that you know are elderly or might need help, be a good citizen. Just be kind and check in on them. Your food, if you have not stocked up because you're not a prepper or you're not one who naturally has food on hand, make sure you have non-perishables. I recommend doing that long before a storm comes along, because you want to have 3, maybe 7 days worth of food on hand that you don't have to worry about being refrigerated and frozen or whatever. Just have some non-perishables. It could be pudding, applesauce. I make applesauce, so I have jars of applesauce. Here's a list that you could have. Chips, we don't have them because we don't eat them, or I make my own with zucchini. I do have some zucchini chips. Crackers, beef jerky. I'm out, so I'm going to be without beef jerky, but I do have canned meat on hand, and that's one thing you can have. Pudding, some people like to have those instant puddings that do not need to be refrigerated. Applesauce, granola bars. You can make your own too before a storm. You can make these kind of things ahead of time. And chocolate, not only in your car, but in your home, because people get grumpy. And you can make things with chocolate. And if you don't have hot cocoa, have that on hand. And okay, how am I going to get hot water if the electricity goes out? Well, I have a gas stove. Even though it has an electric start, I might not be able to bake in my oven, but I can actually, with a lighter, start my stove. But I also have a rocket stove we built that I can go and warm up water. We have the grill if I need to warm up food or cook something. You can have a charcoal grill, propane grill. There's another thing, I'll think of it, where you can actually make soup inside and stuff with a candle. Just kind of have a pan over it and, set a rig up something like with some bricks, and then have like those, oh, my brain's not here. Maybe it's on my notes. Anyways, you want to have different methods of fondue. That's the one. We have a fondue dish, and I was going to get rid of it. And then I told my husband, I said, what if we have bad outage or something? I can heat up a can of soup in a fondue dish. Because we don't eat fondue. We did when we were first married, and we just kind of stopped. And we did when the kids were young. We did that once or twice. But it's one of those pieces of kitchen utensils that I don't use very much. And then as I was about ready to sell it, I'm like, because it's a really nice one, I said, nope, I'm going to save it for soup. Make sure you have water bottles in the freezer, frozen. If you're going to put them in, make sure they're not completely full. Empty out a little bit. That way, when they get completely full, they're not going to explode. So you want to make sure you have plenty of ice. Now, maybe even consider putting a block of ice in your freezer if you have the room. Why do I say that? Because if the electricity is out for any length of time and you need to keep your refrigerator cold, You just take that block of ice and put it in your refrigerator, and it will help keep your items cold. You're outdoors, a cooler outdoors, it's a great idea. I've done it before for a couple of hours, but it's not the answer for 3 or 4 days. And the reason is first, there's animals out there. So if you've got to do that, if that is your only option, make sure it's in your car or in an outbuilding where you can keep, where it's still really cold out there. But there's animals out there. That's the reason. Not only that, but if it's out there, the temperatures change throughout the day. So unless you know it's going to be 30 degrees or 20 degrees, whatever temp you want to keep your food at, and it's consistent, then you do what you got to do. Personally, I won't, but it is an option when we've had to, like holidays, we would put the pies and other things like that that needed to stay cold out in a cold entry of sorts. Plus, if there's water bottles in the freezer, if you need water, you have a source of water if you haven't already collected. Most often you're going to be fine with the water system if you're in this city, most often, but there could be a backup if things aren't working. So be prepared. Know how to use gray water. Gray water is the water that you get from your showers and doing dishes. And we practiced this for a little bit because I want to say, what happened if the grid went down, right? What would we do? And so one of the things that I did was we took our water from the shower and we just let it go into our bucket. We had a 5-gallon Lowe's bucket, and then we had that was just too big for us as we showered. Plus, it's hard to lift up 5 gallons of water. So I went and I got a 2.5 gallon cleaning bucket from Walmart. It was like a couple dollars. And when we take a shower, we found out we use less than 2 gallons of water when we shower. I guess that's good, but boy, would I like to reduce how much we use. But what we did was it was easier for me to lift so that we could flush the toilet if we couldn't use the flush. So those are some options. But when it comes to that and you got a lot of people in your family, you're going to have to rethink about how often you do that. So, I know this is gross. I find it disgusting. But if it came to it, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. Those are something that a lot of people know. So you have to go with that kind of theory if your water system isn't working. And you have to have a backup for that in the event. Now, do I think that's going to happen this weekend? I don't know. I really don't. I don't think so. But you want to kind of have options, porta potties, whatever. And you can make your own porta potty with a 5-gallon bucket and like a toilet seat. I know some people won't want to do that. When we redid our bathroom, we had to use a porta potty for a month. I was like, I am so over it. I was fine for the first 3 weeks, and then I finally told my husband, we got to get that done. We just got to get that done. Because you get tired of not having the modern conveniences that we normally are accustomed to. But to know how to use those resources is going to be very important. Do I think that's going to happen here? Probably not, but it could. And so you want to have a back flush too in the event things start, if you're on a hill, because you're going to have issues otherwise. But hey, if you are off grid and you have your own system, make sure that that's all taken care of. Let's see, what else? Layer clothing. Right now, I was outside with the chickens because we are wrapping up. I already put some actually David did, I'll give credit. I asked him to put plastic around the coop, but the doors that we go through, I left it open for airflow. Well, it's going to get really, really cold. So I asked him, could you put some plastic on the doors? And he did. And he came in, he goes, it's a little redneck. I said, what do you mean a little redneck? I'll show a picture at the end, so stay with me on that one. What he did was he took our grain bags, and instead of having to unroll the plastic, he took the grain bags and he stapled them on the door. It's perfect. Okay, maybe I am a little redneck, this little city girl that I grew up in the city and now we're actually in the suburbs. But, when I went to Maine, I just transformed. because that's what you do. You just kind of, and I don't have a problem have a little bit of a redneck thing. It's okay. So I think it looks great. On the other door, on the other side, it does. He found that I still had a rice bag because we buy rice in big bags. So we had grain bags and some rice on top. So we have Carolina rice at the top. But you know what? He didn't have to use anything else. So if you don't have anything, do what you can to put plastic on. Not just for a chicken coop. You can do that in your house. One of the things we did to hold the heat in, because we had to have our thermostat turned down because of the cost of fuel. So I said, okay, what can we do? And I didn't want to go and buy those big plastic things and then use the hair dryer and all that. I never liked doing that. We actually have good windows. So what I did was I started going through, and I haven't used it in a while. I went and I took all my bubble wrap and I covered a bunch of windows. You'd be surprised at how much airflow is stopped. Cold air is being brought in. So consider doing that. Some people say mist it with water and it will stick. I didn't find that I was that successful with that. It does help. It puts it in place. It keeps it there. But then I used packing tape to make sure it was around the window. And the place that I was getting cold air coming in was right where the two windows meet. So just make sure that it goes down all the way around. If you have to put it in pieces, like I did, you want to tape it along that area, and it's going to be great. My front window, I just have it halfway because I like to see out, but I brought it down below where the window opens. Plus, not only that, if I need to open the window or I want airflow, it's easier to do that, and I just retape it. If you have a generator, make sure that you have the fuel to work it, and understand that a generator is just a temporary thing. We have a small generator, and it's to help keep things going. Excuse me. We plan to use it for the refrigerators or the freezer or things that actually need it. I won't use it for the curling iron unless I'm going out somewhere fancy or I have to have my hair curled. It's just one of those things. Use it for what you need. We won't use it for the coffee maker because there's ways to make your coffee without a Keurig machine. And all you have to do is boil your water, put a filter over a bowl. You can use a strainer. Pour the water in and it'll make your coffee. Don't worry. You can look up online. There are so many ways to make coffee without a Keurig machine. Let's see. And I talked about layering your clothes. Because I was outside, I have like a tank top, a t-shirt, thermals, and I put this vest on because it's cold out there. It's not as bad as it's going to get. Then the jacket and a hat. All of those items, make sure you have any. And make sure that even though I mentioned these for outside, I'm getting some for my husband for his back. Because for both of us, if we're outside, we might want a heat pack for our back. I can't use it because it has an adhesive, and my skin is sensitive to adhesive, so I won't use it for that. But I could possibly use it if it doesn't need the adhesive, and those go for about 12 hours. So if you're outside, most especially if you're older or the cold bothers your joints, you're going to want something like that to keep you warm, because those rice bags that many of us might have, your microwave won't work. But I mean, if you have electricity, those work fine. Let's see, I wanted to share a little bit other. Emergency first aid, I already said those. Close all doors. Now, if you have rooms that have water pipes, our spare bedroom we don't use very much. We keep the temp cooler in there, but we cannot turn the heat off in there because the pipes to the shower are on one wall. The kitchen has piping, so you don't really want to turn off your kitchen either. But if there are rooms that you are not in, like our bedroom doesn't have any pipings in it, so we could turn the heat off in our bedroom if we have to conserve. And if we want to have other ways of heating, you can get those. There are heaters out there that run on propane that are for use indoors and outdoors. Read the safety manuals and make sure they're safe, and do not run it in place of everything else. Make sure you have whatever fuel you need for that to stay warm. The best thing to do is bundle up. There is nothing wrong with wearing layers. Nobody's going to care. If you don't have thermals, but many people have jammy pants, many people have yoga pants. Put the yoga pants on and then put your jammy pants over them, and you're good to go. Now, I just see a lot of people with a variety of clothes they wear when they're out running or doing other sports or just hanging out. I know almost everybody has yoga pants, because when I go to Walmart, there's a lot of people wearing yoga pants. So wear those, put jeans on over pajamas, fleece. I know a lot of people have fleece pants. Whatever you have, it's okay to wear layers. And it's also okay to get into bed with the thermals. I've been doing it a lot because we're keeping our thermostat down. Once you're warmed up, you can take them off, but it is a way to stay warm. And in addition, make sure you have plenty of blankets on your bed. We use flannel sheets, and if you don't have them, that's okay too. Whatever you can get for blankets. We have, because I crochet in the winter, and that's what it keeps me warm. If I have no electricity, I can sit there and crochet, and working on a blanket will keep me warm. So we have a couple Afghans on our bed. We have a couple quilts, and we have a comforter on our bed. Yes, there's at least 5 to 6 layers on my bed. But you know what? When we're cold, we can crawl under, cuddle, and get warm. And that's what you want, not only for you, but for the kids. Allow them to come in and cuddle with you, and it's okay. Let's see, solar heater, wood stove, fireplace. If you have that, great, use them. Just remember how to use them and be safe. Block the drafts, like on the windowsills and your doors. Roll up a towel. If you don't have those draft doggies, roll up a towel. And if you do have those draft doggies, just make sure that they get dried out really well after every use, because they can get moldy. Extra curtains. We have in some rooms, I have like 3 layers of curtains, and it helps. It keeps the cold from coming into the house, and it helps keep our thermostat from having to go our furnace from having to go on a lot. Have everything in writing here. Sleeping bags. If you have sleeping bags, have them available in case you need it if the electricity goes out. Blankets. I've already mentioned that. In the living room, if you're socializing, have extra blankets so that people can throw that on their laps, because your legs get cold, your feet get cold, your hands get cold. I get cold all the time. One thing that you might not have thought about is, because when the grid goes down, if it gets that bad where you can't, you might want to scan important documents like health records or other documents that might be important. Make sure you have them scanned in, because you can go to the emergency room, but they might not have access to that. This is a worst case scenario, and a lot of people think, oh, that's not going to happen. But if it did happen, you're going to be kicking yourself that you didn't think of these things. Make sure you have plenty of lights. I did do a video earlier on the lighting. You can do headlights, you can do neck lights. My neck light that I showed in there, I had to recharge it. It was running out of juice. But those have things that you can recharge. Make sure you have a unit that you can charge things up, that if it runs by the solar energy, make sure you have that. We have one that's not only for charging a variety of things. It has the radio and it has the light. Those are really important to have, at least one. And take it with you if you know you're going to be away from the house for a little bit. It'll be very handy. And having the radio, and I don't listen to the radio very often, but it would be handy. And know that you might not have Wi-Fi, so you're going to need a radio. We're so used to, as we evolve and we get advanced, we forget how to do things without. So a battery operated radio that charges up from solar energy from the sun, and you're going to be all set. Propane lamps, your outdoor solar lights, we have some screwed onto our deck. If they're not screwed onto the deck, you can bring those in at night and use that for lighting if you need it. Candles, battery sources, kerosene lamp. I'm trying to look around. Another thing that I have set up is we have, let me see if I can move this. And I didn't do it for Christmas. You see the lights up there? The twinkle lights. They're so adorable. I use those at night anyway because I don't like a lot of lights. I don't like brightness and stuff. And it was one of my ways of conserving energy. But with the storm coming in, I'm going to turn that off in a minute. When the storm comes in, that might be the only thing we have for lighting. And I have it in the kitchen, the living room, hallway, and then we have other units that are battery operated with the same kind of twinkle lights. And you can hang them somewhere. We have them throughout the house. We have them in every bedroom. Another thing that you can have on hand is a battery operated lantern. What I would recommend is go through your camping gear if you are a camper. You can have, if you go camping, you know that you need light, you need a heat source, you need all that. Those supplies come in very handy during this time. And I'm surprised at how campers don't think of this during the winter time, because we have the comforts of home and we forget that we can bring those comforts from outdoors inside to get you through one day, a week, or whatever. And a lot of people, the last storm we had less than a week ago, people lost their electricity for a few days. Some people were handling it fine. Other people were having a hard time. They had the internet, so that's cool, but they were having a hard time with their house getting cold and just everything. So just kind of think of the things that you don't want to be inconvenienced with. And with the holiday coming in, one of the things I'm doing, and by the way, just because I do it doesn't mean it's the only way. It's just the way I do it. Have some food that's already prepared. Steam or hard boil some eggs for protein. Have other foods already on hand, like soups and stuff. Use whatever method you can for warming that stuff up. Some foods you don't even need to heat up. They're going to be fine, just eating as is. We're just so used to heating those type of things up. If you're one who makes food in advance, which I do, I make soups and stews and stuff, and if I have extras, I'll just put it in the pressure canner so that it's stored for future use. But some people might have it in their freezer, and you might be emptying your freezer at that point. So another thing is, if you have these, this is not a regular candle, this is an actual battery operated candle. And these will be great. If you have kids and they want a candle, this is one that, this is actually has actual wax on it, and I kind of like it. I use it for Christmas decorations. But this will be very handy versus giving them a candle in a glass container. First of all, the glass could break or whatever. You don't want the little ones with this, but you can give them a candle of their own that is battery operated, and you can get these at craft stores and other areas. I know that Michael's has them. I assume that Joann's has them. Hobby Lobby has them. And just look around. You will find these. And I don't know if Dollar General or Dollar Tree, the $1.25 tree. Sorry, I find it funny. But get some battery operated candles. Those would be very handy. If you can get the battery operated twinkle lights, many people might have them for Christmas. They have battery. You're just going to need to make sure you have plenty of batteries on hand. So again, make sure you have thermals. I have plenty of thermals on hand because I decided, because we were cutting back, I went out and got a bunch. And yes, I have 2 sets of red buffalo plaid, but I went out and got a bunch. And you're going to be seeing me in my thermals a lot in the shirts because I get cold easily, but I layer it so when I get warmed up, I can take it off. Other things to have, make sure you have gloves. Even inside, you can use, I have to clean, these were out, I use these out in my chicken coop. I got to wash and clean them up a little bit. Something warm to keep your fingers clean. Any type of warm hat, a knit hat inside works wonders. And another thing is, if you have a husband who has one of these, I do, steal his parka hat or whatever this is called. The trapper hat, I think is what it's called. This baby is warm. You will want something like this. So you may end up having to buy your own because they may say, no, you can't have it. My husband didn't say that to me, but he did. He didn't have a problem with me using it when I was cold the other day. He came in. I was in the living room. The lights were. I had my little light around my neck. Had my flannels on. I had my thermals on, and I was cold. I don't know why the heater was working, but it was like it got down to 66 because it goes down to 66 before it kicks on and goes to 68. So I found his hat. I had that on. And he goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm keeping warm. And I had a blanket on. But you know what? Cuddling up, reading a good book, or cuddling up, doing a puzzle with family members, or whatever it is, playing a game. Sometimes playing a game and it's cold out, it can keep you warm because the adrenaline. I don't know if you're a competitive person. I'm a very competitive person. I don't have a problem losing, but while I'm playing the game, I'm going to work hard at trying to win. Just think of ways to keep yourselves warm. More importantly, stay entertained and communicate with those that are around you. Make sure you are around people that don't start arguments. Try to keep things light. Read books that are humorous. We have books that are just, they're funny. They're funny stories, and you can get a couple of those books. Have crossword, Sudoku, whatever it is on paper form, because if your internet goes down, you're going to have to be creative. You're going to have to go old school and do stuff. So I know some of these things you already know. I get it. This is repetitive. But are you thinking about it? We might be losing our electricity this weekend, and we rarely lose it. We don't have a fireplace. We don't have a wood stove. We don't have some of the luxuries that I consider luxury. And people who live in apartments don't have that either. So you have to think a little bit differently, and it can be done. So get your grills ready. Make sure you have propane, so if you have to cook, you have those. Get your thermals. Steal a hat. Whatever you have to do to stay warm. And I did go out looking for one the other day for myself, and we didn't find it. So I did find one online, but it won't be here in time for this weekend. But I don't plan on going outside. The person who's going to go out is my husband. But I do make knit hats. So it's okay to wear your cute little hat inside when it's cold, because a lot of our heat escapes through our head, and our hands get really cold. So wear those gloves. Wear double. I even got thermal socks. Yeah, I went out and got a pair. Make sure you have thermal socks. Just think outside the box of what you can do to keep your body warm. And if you have a loved one, more so the elderly, make sure that they have things to keep them warm. Oftentimes, the elderly people will tell you, I'm fine. I'm that way. I'm fine. As you can see, I'm already taken care of. But they do that because they don't want to be a bother. Check in on them. Go in and make sure that their house is warm. And the other thing is, the roads are going to be very icy, is the prediction. Do whatever you can to stay home. If you don't have to be out, stay home. I know a lot of people are trying to get their Christmas gifts, but is it that important? Can you extend your Christmas another couple days because not everybody can come in? I don't know what the family dynamics are. But the roads need to be cleared for the emergency crews, the police, the fire, the road crews that are going to be picking up the cars that are slipping off the roads. We need our medical personnel who are going to be working at the hospitals and the clinics and stuff. If you don't have an appointment, a necessary appointment, if you don't need to be out on the road, and you won't have to if you have your food and other items in place. And today's what, Thursday? Tomorrow, it's here in New Hampshire, it's coming in Friday night. So we have 2 days left. But I think, talking to my husband, we're all set. I know he has an errand that he said he has to run to pick something up that wasn't available yesterday. So once that's done, we're in. And I'm busy making some food, so if we don't have anything hot on Sunday, we got something we can eat and we can just warm up. Folks, I hope that you have a very Merry Christmas, and I hope that it is warm. I hope it's joyful, and I hope that you understand the meaning of Christmas. It's not about all those gifts that you're in a hurry to get. It's not about anything other than the ultimate love that came down to this earth to walk among us. And I hope that you get to enjoy this holiday season. And I know, and by the way, those who do not have the same Christian faith I do, I want to wish you happy holidays for what you celebrate. Whether it's Hanukkah, whatever it is, I wish you well for your holiday celebrations, because that's really what this season is about, is just being kind. And maybe after this holiday season we don't stop here. We do it all year round. Merry Christmas, folks, and may God bless you. Stay warm.